Right now, the big conversation around the quarterbacks is Tua's Wonderlic score being leaked this weekend. Now, granted, it was leaked that he got a 13, which is a terrible score. Anybody that's down near the lower teens or even below 10, in my eyes, probably can't read that well, to be honest with you, because that means they couldn't get through the questions. This has always been my thought. But in your eyes, a 19, by the way, is much different than a 13. And I understand that the Wonderlic is not a direct indicator of success in the NFL. But what do you think the Wonderlic can tell you about a player? What do you think his score could tell you?
Well, I do think that, like, if you have an outlying characteristic, so it doesn't matter what it is, if it's the Wonderlic, if it's a 40 time, if it's, hand size, all the things that we're measuring right now, if there's something that's an outlier, at least it makes you go, well, wait a second, let's at least go check this out. Because most of the guys that have been good in the NFL have had a Wonderlic score of, as you're saying, like, hey, closer to 19. So if you're really far from 19, let's just look into it. But I think when you watch Tua play, and you're curious is he smart enough to like process information after the snap, I think it's pretty clear, regardless of what the Wonderlic score was saying, it's pretty clear that the guy sees things, processes well, and so I really wouldn't be concerned about it, seeing it, kind of through that lens. Maybe it makes you take a pause and consider, but I think you see enough kind of good decision making that you're all right with it.
Hey, Tim, you've been around the NFL a long time. Your dad in the NFL, brother in the NFL, ESPN covering the NFL. Why would somebody leak that Tua got a 13? That must mean, in my eyes, that a team is very interested who's lower in the draft that is leaking this information in an attempt to hopefully bury him a little bit. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I mean, listen, that the information that ends up out there is there's usually a reason behind it. And, so look, when you look at Tua, like I've heard Mike Tannenbaum on ESPN this week talk about how he thinks it would be reckless to draft Tua in the top 10. And that's the way he says that. And you're like, wow, wait a second. That's a really strong statement. And, Mike T's not running around with hot takes. And so you think like, well, that's got to probably be something that is, maybe, in circles around the league to guarantee somebody $35 million, which you would do in the top 10. When your doctors can't look at a guy, maybe he could drop. And so maybe there's some thought like, well, now if they think he's dumb and hurt, like maybe you could get him at 13 or 15 or somewhere. So, yeah, I think you're exactly right about this time of year and what people say.
So sorry to interrupt. If you're a man watching this, you deserve to have long, great. And you can do that now with our friends at Roman. Right now, you go to GetRoman.com. You get $10 off and free 2-day shipping on Roman swipes, which are guaranteed to make you have longer, more fulfilling every time you get in the sack. Now let's get back to the fornicating action. Your family's good friends with Dilfer, Trent Dilfer. He is currently training Tua. Have you reached out to him and talked to him about the human Tua is, how he's throwing the ball? Because I remember when he stepped on the scene at Alabama, it was the first time in what feels like forever that Alabama had a quarterback who could do everything that any other quarterback could do. It's not that A.J. McCarron couldn't do it or anybody else that was there. It was they were a run-first offense. Now when they put Tua, the ball in his hand, he started slinging it. They became a completely different team with that stacked defense as well. What has Trent Dilfer told you about this entire process about Tua in his training in these last couple months?
Yeah, I have talked to Trent. I told Trent that he probably needs to do a little working out also because he's looking a little, like he either needs to go with like the all black, Pat, like yes. I know you did during the season.
Yes.
Just to slim down a little bit. But I will tell you, look, I think a lot of quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, and it's clear from high school to college and even now going into the pros, would love to work with Trent. And Trent's not just going to work with anybody. And so I think a couple of things. Trent wouldn't take on training Tua if he didn't really, really believe in him just as a person, a competitor. He's known, Tua and his family for a long time. And so, I think that right there kind of speaks volumes to, if you just consider all the people Trent has been around that would like to go to Trent for like pre-combine, pre-pro day training. And Trent absolutely loves him. Just loves him as a competitor, loves his talent, loves his ability. And I think most people feel that way about him. And you just go back, you talk about when he came onto the scene, Pat, like think about how crazy that was. Like national championship game. We're going to throw you in there. And like the touchdown pass that he throws in that critical moment and the difficulty of the throw for a true freshman. And then, you go back earlier in the game, he throws a pick. He walks over the sideline and like throws his arm around Nick Saban, like, hey, little buddy, it's going to be okay. And he's like, wait a second, this is a true freshman.